The Second World War caused enormous destruction and left large parts of the world in ruins. That's why the United Nations was where leaders from all around the world can interact. In the UN, countries try to agree on which rules and agreements should apply in the world. The most important topics of discussion in the UN are peace and security, human rights, and sustainable development. The Sustainable Development Goals is the United Nations global agenda to end poverty, fight inequality, and combat climate change by 2030. The UN General Secretary has called for major reforms of the organization. Several member states have supported change to maintain world peace in years to come.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, delegates. Welcome to our United Nations General Assembly. So, by the way, I am Celmar, a member representative of the United Nations General Assembly. So, I am here today to discuss the 5 workings of the United Nations General Assembly. United Nations General Assembly also makes key decisions for the UN, including appointing the Secretary General on the recommendation of the Security Council, electing the non-permanent members of the Security Council, and approving the UN budget. The United Nations itself is one part of the UN system. Cooperation between the UN and the other entities of the UN system is essential in order to achieve the purposes of the organizations laid out in the UN Charter. The United Nations coordinates its works with the funds, programs, specialized agencies, and other organizations of the UN system. So we, the people of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generation from the source of war, which twice in our lifetime has brought untold sorrow to mankind, and to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights. So the work of the United Nations covers five main areas. So here is the 5 areas that covers the United Nations. So first is maintain international peace and security. Second, protect human rights. Third, deliver humanitarian aid. Fourth, support sustainable development and climate action. And the last is uphold international law.
The first priority of United Nations is maintain international peace and security.
The United Nations was created in 1945, following the devastation of the Second World War, with one central mission, the maintenance of international peace and security. The UN accomplishes this by working to prevent conflict, helping parties in conflict make peace, deploying peacekeepers, and creating the conditions to allow peace to hold and flourish. These activities often overlap and should reinforce one another to be effective. Second is protect human rights. So what is human rights? Human rights are rights inherent to all human beings regardless of race, sex, nationality, ethnicity, language, religion, or any other status. International human rights law lays down the obligations of governments to act in a certain way or to refrain from certain acts in order to promote and protect human rights and fundamental freedoms of individuals or groups. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights exercises principal responsibility for UN human rights activities. So the High Commissioner is mandated to respond to serious violations of human rights and to undertake preventive action. Third is deliver humanitarian aid. One of the purpose of the United Nations, as stated in its charter, is to achieve international cooperation in solving international problems of economic, social, cultural, or humanitarian character. The UN first did this in the aftermath of the Second World War on the devastated continent of Europe, which it helped to rebuild. The organization is now relied upon by the international community to coordinate humanitarian relief of emergencies due to natural and man-made disasters in areas beyond the relief capacity of national authorities alone. Fourth is support sustainable development and climate action. The United Nations launched its Sustainable Development Agenda in 2015, reflecting the growing understanding by member states of the development model that is sustainable for this and future generations offer the best path forward for reducing poverty and improving the lives of people everywhere. At the same time, climate change began making a profound impact on the consciousness of humanity, with the polar ice caps melting, global sea levels rising, and cataclysmic weather events increasing in ferocity. No country in the world is safe from the effects of climate change. Building a more sustainable global economy will help reduce the greenhouse gas emission that cause climate change. It is therefore critically important that the international community meet the UN Sustainable Development Goals and also the targets for the reducing emission set in the Paris Climate Agreements of 2015. Sustainable development and climate actions are linked and both are vital to the present and future well-being of humanity. The last one is uphold international law. The UN Charter, in its preamble, set an objective to establish conditions under which justice and respect for the obligation arising from treaties and other sources of international law can be maintained. Ever since the development of and respect for international law has been a key part of the work of the organization. This work is carried out in many ways by courts, tribunals, multilaterals, treaties, and by the Security Council, which can approve peacekeeping missions, impose sanctions, or authorize the use of force, which there is a threat to international peace and security. If it deems this necessary, these powers are given to it by the UN Charter, which is considered an international treaty. As such, it is an instrument of international law, and UN member states are bound. The UN Charter codifies the major principles of international relations, from the sovereign equality of states to the prohibition of the use of force in international relations. That would be all for today. Thank you so much to everyone who is participating here in the United Nations General Assembly. I am happy that I am happy to be part of this kind of assembly. So thank you so much and God bless to everyone. Thank you.